The long-awaited report of the Commission of Investigation into the Mother and Maby's homes is unfortunately not what many expected. Survivors have waited for 5 years for this report, and so many are disappointed that after all that time they just feel let down. One survivor contacted me on Monday to thank my party for all the work we have done to support survivors. She told me that it took her almost a week to contact me, as the publication of the report meant she relived the horrors of everything that had been done to her. And without realising it, she had personally buried it in the recesses of her mind, but it all came back to her this past week as if it was yesterday. But she told me she was one of the lucky ones because her daughter found her after years of looking. But not everyone has been that lucky, and one man told me he was denied access to his personal information and lied to by social workers. And when he finally, after years, managed to trace his birth mother, it was too late because she had passed away. He felt cheated of an opportunity to get to know his birth mother. So this cannot be allowed to continue happening. Access to information is a must, and I want to commend my party colleague, Deputy Kathleen Funchkin, for introducing the Civil Registration Amendment Bill, which will guarantee the right to people to their own birth certificate and personal information. And I'm urging all TDs in this chamber to support that legislation. One would imagine that when thinking of the Church, and nuns in particular, that love and dignity and respect would be high on their agenda, and the Church's preaching of treat others as you would like them to treat you should be their mantra. But for the women who spent many months in these institutions, punishment and abuse, shame and trauma was visited on them on a regular basis. Women, and in fact many of them children themselves, were forced to go through giving birth to a baby without any sort of pain relief, without any sort of support. In fact, many were verbally abused while they endured the pain of childbirth, and nowhere in the equation are men made to take any responsibility. But I have no doubt that the state is the one to blame here. The state allowed itself to have its policy dictated by the Church, and then it left it to the religious organisations to cater for what they saw as Ireland's dirty little secret. And shame on the state for treating its citizens and allowing its citizens to be mistreated in this way. And don't tell me that those in power didn't know what was happening. Also, to blame society is totally unfair. Many people throughout the decades of this new state were just trying to make ends meet and were not aware of what was happening in these institutions. Women who endured this mistreatment did not talk about it. What is needed now is inclusive, constructive and collaborative engagement with stakeholders. Survivors of these institutions need to be kept informed of what is happening in relation to this report. They need access to information, they have a right to their birth certificate, and they must have a right to information about their own care. Support for survivors such as counselling service, access to housing, therapies, a medical card and a redress scheme which does not differentiate between the women needs to be put in place. And to all the little children who lost their lives in these institutions and were coldly buried in unmarked graves, they need to be properly, if at all possible, reunited with their families and given a proper Christian burial. It is time for the full truth to be known and whatever support is needed given to the survivors of these institutions.